This training will describe how to do initial name authority work. According to Principle 8 of DAX, the creators of archival materials as well as the materials themselves must be described. While archival materials are described in finding aids, catalog records, and other descriptive records, creators are described using authority files. In our current system, library authority files are used to record basic information about creators, such as their name, dates, locations, and other basic information for distinguishing one record from another. However, the primary focus of library name authority records is recording unique name headings for people or corporate bodies. These name headings provide a uniform access point for an entity which can then be used in descriptive records, thus allowing users to find all resources associated with the entity through a single search. These name headings also provide a link between the authority record and descriptive records that include that heading. In the United States, name authority records are managed centrally by the Library of Congress through their name authority file. The Library of Congress Name Authority File provides access to around 6 million name authority records, including those of people and corporate bodies. Libraries and other organizations also continue to add new authority records to the file as they are needed. Looking quickly at one of the records from LCN-AF again, the focus of the record is on the name heading. This is recorded in a 100-level field and mark, but it is also shown at the top of the record. Other names used by the entity are also included in the authority record in a 400-level field. These are used by the system to create the synthetic structure of the authority file, forming a series of references directing users back to the authorized form of the name. The final section of the record typically includes a number of 670 fields, which include information on source materials used in creating the record, and, at times, other information about the entity that might be used in distinguishing between records. It is this type of information, then, that you should be trying to capture while doing authority work for the collections you are processing. The first step in the process of determining how to format a name for use in a title or a name heading should be to consult LCNAF to see if this has already been done for you. You may need to try various permutations of the name, and at times need to compare dates to be sure you have found the right one. For example, searching for the prophet Joseph Smith in LCNAF, you will find that there are many Joseph Smith entries. The one that you need is under Smith, Joseph, 1805 to 1844, as indicated both by the dates used in the authorized form of his name and by the other information contained in the record. Once you have found the correct form of a name, it should then be used in that form for access points or placed into natural language, leaving off any qualifiers such as dates or parenthetical expanded name forms for an inclusion in a title. In this case, you would use the name Joseph Smith in the name segment of the supplied title. If you are unable to find a heading for the person at hand, then you will need to gather the information needed for a library cataloger to create an authority record. This includes information about the name of the entity as well as supplemental data used for differentiation. Most of this information may have been found during the creation of your biographical or administrative history note. All of the information found should be recorded according to departmental guidelines. This research should be done as part of your processing work and should not be considered a separate comprehensive research project. You should only spend between 15 to 30 minutes doing authority work on any specific name. If you are not able to find additional information within this time limit, enter what you have and note what sources you consulted. When selecting which name to use for a name heading, what you should be looking for is the most common form of the name used, or the name that they are most commonly known by. other names that are identified during authority work will be recorded and will provide references to the selected form. So, for example, the most common form of the name found for this individual is Mark Twain, which is the entry used for the heading. However, if you were to search for these two names, they would refer the user back to the authorized form of the name. Similarly, with corporate bodies, such as the library, the name heading should be Harold B. Lee Library, but there are references available from the Lee Library or the HBLL. When selecting the most common form of the name, there is some weighting given to the sources available, which varies between persons or corporate bodies. For people, special preference is given to individuals that are known as authors to determine for themselves the form of their name that should be used. So, if working with the papers of a known author, the preferred name would be defined as the name that they choose to use in their published works. For individuals that are not known primarily as an author, the most common form of the name should be determined from reference sources, such as books, articles, biographical dictionaries, genealogy databases, and other resources. The materials being processed should be treated as a reference source in this case, and should not be given undue precedence in determining the most common form of the name. For corporate bodies, the rules are similar, with the preferred source of the name to be taken from items issued by the entity in its language. If no items can be located meeting these criteria, then the most common form of the name found in reference sources should be used. As with personal papers, the materials being processed should be treated as a reference source in this case, and should not be given undue precedence in determining the most common form of the name, unless they include items issued by the body bearing the entity's name. There are a number of reference sources available for determining the most common form of an entity's name, and the sources used will probably vary depending on what you are processing. For Mormon and Utah materials, reference works such as Pioneers and Prominent Men of Utah and the LDS Biographical Encyclopedia could be useful. For photographers, specialized publications such as biographies of Western photographers are ideal. General sites such as biographical databases and genealogical websites should provide basic name information as well as dates and other information. Similar databases are also available for businesses and other corporate bodies, such as Hoover's and Yahoo Finance. For whatever project you are working with, you should consult your curator even if you are not finding relevant sources. Additional information should also be recorded about an entity where available. For persons, this includes the dates and places of birth and death, gender, occupations, places of residence, and other forms of their name identified during your search. For corporate bodies, this includes dates of creation and dissolution, functions, locations of headquarters, as well as other forms of name. For more information about the guidelines for citing and recording information during your authority work, consult with your curator, the collections management staff, or the manuscripts cataloger. For other questions, please consult your curator.